Hello again everyone from Tokyo, Japan. Welcome back to Two Wheels on Tokyo, where today it's kind of nice out, a little bit windy, and today I'm going to be heading out to the Minowa Minami Senju part of Tokyo, which is a fairly good ride away from here, so it might be kind of a long video. I'm starting out here in Roppongi, and we're going to find our way from the hills up here down to the low part of the city, and hopefully see some interesting things along the way. Now, the Minowa part of the city is famous because it was the location in the old days of it was called the licensed quarter, and the Japanese word for it was Yoshiwara, and this was the, I guess, area for adult entertainment of the time for the courtesans, prostitutes, and such. And when it was built way back in the 17th century, it was kind of outside the city limits in what was then countryside, and was basically kind of a rectangle of land raised above the rice paddies, with walls all the way around it to prevent escape, and also with a river toward the front, or a canal, which led to the Sumida River, so you could leave the city, the central part of here of Tokyo, and take a boat up the river and then along the canal to the Yoshiwara. And the Yoshiwara has kind of a mixed history, a very dark history, but also kind of a bright history. For the majority of the prostitutes who worked there, of course, it was a dark place to live and work, and from which escape was almost impossible. And for the better ones, it was a place where they became popular and even famous. And it was a place of entertainment, not just prostitution, and a lot of the arts of the day, music and poetry, fashion, and other things originated in that quarter of the city and then found their way through the rest of the city. So we're going down Roppongi Street here, kind of a steep hill. Sometimes get going pretty fast here. Over to the left, some odd-looking prefabricated buildings. That's the housing where the personnel from the American Embassy live. And the embassy is pretty much straight ahead from here. The embassy, the American Embassy anyway, is kind of a fortress here. I don't like to go there very often because the security getting in is even worse than at airport. You have to go through the metal detector and have your, empty out your pockets and have your bags checked and all that kind of stuff, and then go through a sally port before you're let into the embassy grounds. And then the embassy itself, thick walls, and the glass is 4 inches thick and all this stuff, like they're expecting a terrorist assault on the embassy in Tokyo, which is not a likely thing to happen, but yeah, it's like that. So when I occasionally have to get my passport renewed or whatever, or have to deal with other American bureaucracy, I have to go to the embassy, and it's not something I look forward to. The road I'm going down is a wide paved road with 3 lanes on either side, which makes this road bigger than 99% of Japanese highways, at least until we get up a little bit ahead here. I don't mind cycling on the roads in Japan. There's lots and lots of traffic, but the drivers are usually fairly predictable, and the consequences of one of them hitting a bicycle are extremely severe compared to other countries, so they may come close from time to time, but they'll do whatever they can to avoid actually hitting someone on a bicycle. So I feel safer riding on roads like this in Tokyo than I might feel riding in the countryside in America. Over to the right is the Ark Hills area and the A&A Intercontinental Hotel and Bubby's Restaurant, which is really, really good. A great place to get a burger, and they have really good Eggs Benedict. So if you're staying at the Anna Hotel and want something good to eat, walk over to Bubby's. A little bit further ahead to the right is another new building, and that's the home of, well, in the lower level there's a Lowry's Prime Rib restaurant, which is also very good, and they put it close to the embassy on purpose because it's very popular with the people who work there. Who like beef and American food. And over to the right is where the embassy is. Can't see it here, but the road is blocked off. The whole area is like shut off to the public. You need to have a reason to go into the embassy to be allowed to walk up the street over there. I should cross the street over here. That's a good idea. And that way I won't have to wait over on the other side. Lowry's is in this building here, just to the right. And Starbucks coffee. There's like a Starbucks coffee every 500 feet in Japan. I think you have more Starbucks here than anywhere else. There are places where you can stand in one spot and see 3 or 4 different Starbucks restaurants in the distance. All right, I'm going to get off of Roppongi Street and these bumps and head toward Nihonbashi, which would be to the right. It's rather quiet right now. Everyone's at work. In this particular part of Tokyo is not very well known to tourists unless they're lost. The road splits into 2 parts here. The straight part goes towards Shinbashi and Toranomon. And as the sign says there, the right side goes toward Tsukiji and Shiodome. And there's a long tunnel which goes under a big part of the city as you head out toward Shiodome and Tsukiji. So it's kind of a fast way to get across the town. Unfortunately, bicycles aren't allowed in the tunnel. There aren't many places in Tokyo where you can drive reasonably fast. There aren't many places in the entire country of Japan where you can drive reasonably fast unless you're going to a race course. In this area, people love exotic cars. There's a lot of Porsches and Ferraris and things like that running around. So GT3s but these cars very seldom get over 60 miles an hour. Never that fast in the city. It's like my car, I put Rain-X on the windows because, you know, you put Rain-X on the windows of your car, and when it's raining, the wind blows the water off of the windshield so you don't have to use your wipers so much. But here I can never actually drive fast enough to where the wind can blow the water off of the windshield. At least I have something to drive when it does rain rather than have to take a bicycle. This area is Kasumigaseki, the seat of the government, at least the Tokyo government, and the National Police headquarters. the courthouse and the Diet. That's all off toward the left-hand side toward Hibiya Park. We're going straight ahead toward Shimbashi. Kind of a tall building. Straight ahead in the distance would be in Shiodome. The roads here in Japan, and especially in Tokyo, are generally smooth and pretty well maintained. Some places they're bumpy because they're always building new things here. And a new building usually means new water lines, new sewer lines, new power lines, because the electricity here is all under the ground to most of the city. And so often they go and they resurface the street, or they put new pavement on the sidewalk, and then 3 days later they're tearing it up to put in something else. A nice tailwind here, kind of moving me along fairly quickly. The last time I made a video going down this area, I turned left here and headed toward the Kogyo and Hibiya Park. This time I'm going to go through Ginza, which is probably interesting for people to see. It's a holiday today, the spring equinox holiday, so and kids in Japan are out of school for their spring break. The school year will start on April 1st, April Fool's Day. It's different from other places, obviously. They think that the spring is the best time, to start school, and so right now kids are taking a break, getting ready to move up into the next grade or move up to their next level of school. I've seen a lot of kids over the last couple of weeks with their parents dressed up nicely as they are going to visit elementary school or junior high or high school. And all the schools here, even public schools, require kids to pass entrance exams. If your kid's going to kindergarten, they have to pass a basic test showing that they have enough, I guess, intelligence and education to deal with kindergarten. And then when you enter elementary school, there's another exam, and of course for junior high and high school, more exams. The private schools here have interviews where they test the kids and interview them and interview the parents as well. So in this season, or the application season, you'll see kids and their parents dressed up very nicely, going to attend school interviews. Private school is not expensive in Japan compared to places like America. It's very affordable, but they're very selective. And if you're a Japanese kid and you want to be in a profession or in the government or something like that, you kind of have to start early in your planning, because what you want to do depends on the university you're going to go to, and some companies or industries or professions favor particular universities over other ones. All right, Shiodome up here on the right. It's where my daughter does her piano recital every year. In the French Cultural Center building. It's a nice place. Well, I think I'm going to go through Tourist Central. I'm going to go through the busy part of Ginza if the street is open today. Yeah, it looks like it's open. Ginza Orient Building. This is where all the flagship stores are located, the most expensive ones. They lose lots of money here because the rent is ridiculously expensive, but if you have a company with a store in Ginza, it means that you are a prosperous and large and well-known company. Wow, these guys are dressed like it's really cold. I'm not wearing half that many clothes. Apple store, the Yamaha Music Center. You can buy pianos, violins, cellos, brass instruments. They have lots of good stuff there. All the big foreign brands are here. Prada, Louis Vuitton, Chanel. Some of the famous old-time restaurants we've been here for a long time. They're surprisingly not that expensive to eat at. For myself, I don't think they're very good. I don't think that, even though they're not expensive, I think it's just they've been here a long time and that's why they're popular, not because their food is actually good. The building on the right used to be the old Matsuya. It's been rebuilt. It looks much nicer than it used to. Kind of a shopping mall. This area right now, the Ginza area, is probably less than a square mile. But during the height of Japan's economic boom in the 1980s, for a short time, this 1 square mile of land here had a higher real estate value than the lower 48 United States combined. It was astronomical. The reason this happened was first a huge increase in the price of Japanese stocks. Japan's stock market was really booming. And then there was a spike in the value of the yen, which just made it all the more valuable. All right, and here we are at this is probably the most famous intersection in Japan. And back in the old days when Japan was a growing country, whenever they took video or movies, I guess they didn't have video in those days, movies of Tokyo, they always came here. The building to the left there is the Wako building. In the post-war years, it was the American Post Exchange. And before that, it was a department store. And on this side is the Mitsukoshi department store, the Ginza one. This is the most famous one. In Japan, the department stores, if you go to the basement level, they're always food stores, grocery stores, and they have lots of places which sell obento and small restaurants and things like that. It's very delicious. There it says Seiko House. The Seiko watch company was founded here in Ginza, and their factory was here for a number of years, and this is where they were all made. A lot of other companies got their start here. Hitotsubashi University was founded here in the second floor of one of the shops on this street, and eventually became one of Japan's more famous universities. They have a very beautiful campus out in the west side of the city. This little box truck from Yokohama is in a hurry to deliver food, I guess, not waiting for the light to turn green. And on the left side up here is Japan's most famous stationery store. Stationery is a big thing in Japan. People still love handmade paper and expensive writing instruments and things like that, though few people actually use them anymore. Matsuya, this is Matsuya. I got a little mixed up on which side of the Ginza I was on. This is the place that has a big camera show every year where you can go in and find really cool vintage cameras. Louis Vuitton, Bulgari, Rolex, Chanel, and everyone else is here. Very fashionable people in Ginza. I used to live close to here and I used to walk through here pretty often. Another one of the stationery store, Itoya. Okay. Tiffany and Company, Dunhill, Boucheron, Miu Miu, Post Office, Jimmy Choo, Harry Winston, UGG, not exactly a high-end fashion brand, but I guess that's why they're on the outskirts here. When we cross under this bridge up here ahead, this takes us out of Ginza and into the Nihonbashi district. On the left side here is a koban, or police box, where the police work very hard at giving old people directions all day and occasionally write tickets for illegally parked bicycles. They're watching me very carefully because I'm a foreigner, and foreigners love to run red lights on bicycles, and so they're always hoping to catch one. Konami building, they moved here from Akasaka. Konami is one of those companies which is known as a black company. The kind of company you don't really want to work for because they make you, besides making you work long hours, they actually make you work hard. Working long hours is one thing, having to work hard and long hours together, that's something that no Japanese or anyone else wants to do. Continue going straight, I guess. So many new buildings getting put up here. Everything is very active in Tokyo. The population around the rest of Japan has been declining, and the countryside is slowly turning into wilderness, but Tokyo continues to grow. Lots of people still coming here to find work, and Tokyo has a lot of good things going for it. It's got a pretty good location in Asia. Japan is not a police state like some other Asian countries are or may be. It's fairly large compared to places like Singapore and Hong Kong, and the water here is safe to drink, and it operates under basically a Western American constitution, so it's fairly easy to do business here compared to some other places. And for that reason, it continues to do well, even if other parts of Japan aren't doing so well. Media, that building on the left, the old-fashioned looking one, is a really wonderful grocery store and wine shop. They have really good stuff there. If you're staying around Ginza and you want to buy a bottle of wine, don't buy one at one of the bars or restaurants because they'll charge you 3 times what they charge for the same bottle of wine at Media. Wow, the skyline changed. Everything is so different here. It's like I moved to Roppongi about 9 years ago, and since over that time, this area has changed so much. Artizone Museum, it used to be an older, different building, the Bridgestone building, and it was known as the Bridgestone Museum. Museum Tower Kyobashi. Bashi means bridge. The Kyo Bridge used to be here. There were a series of canals and moats which ran all over Tokyo. And 100 years ago, that was the popular way to get around. It was easy to move things by boat throughout the city, and nowadays almost all of them are gone. The road that I've been riding on, that used to be, that's been a road for, but over to the right where I'm going to be going next, that used to be a canal. Chokokuro, chocolate croissants. Now that place sells these very wonderful hot chocolate croissants. And it's very wonderful to have one like on a cold winter night. So sometimes I'd be walking home from work along this street and stop there on a freezing cold night to get a hot chocolate croissant and a cup of hot coffee. Okay, and now we're going to head this way. This is the street which is going to take us most of the way where we are going to go. And this is the street which used to be a canal. There's kind of a quick way, like a tunnel, which goes under some parts where you can kind of get through quickly and avoid the traffic lights on the surface. Doesn't make much difference. And these are the people who are waiting to park at the Isetan store. No, Takashimaya. I keep thinking Isetan because it's my mother-in-law's favorite department store. Japanese people have no problem waiting in lines for a long time. I'm not so patient. Even if the food isn't quite as good, I'd rather save my time than wait an extra hour to eat it. Senju and Ueno. Eitai Bridge is a famous steel bridge. It's off to the right side. We may come back that way across the Eitai Bridge. It's a steel bridge which predates the war, and one of the supporting beams to the bridge was hit by a bomb in the Second War, but the bomb didn't explode. It just made a big dent in the beam, and they've never replaced it. They leave it there as kind of like a reminder of the not so wonderful history of that time. And the area where I'm riding through right now, to the right, is the old building for the Nomura Company, which is Japan's largest investment bank. And crossing the river here, Nihonbashi would be the next bridge to the left. Over to the right here is a famous bike shop which sells folding bicycles. I'm not going to go there today. Maybe this guy's going there. Yeah, and this street is called Showa Dori. Showa was the long period during which Emperor Hirohito and his son Akihito ruled the country. And Japan has their calendar made up of these different eras. Some are very short, some are very long. Short ones were usually made short if something unlucky happened, like there was a major earthquake or fire. That was pretty common in the past. And they would start again with a new era, hopefully a more lucky one. The Showa era, of course, saw some pretty unlucky things happen, but I think out of humility they kept using it. And after the Showa era, we had the Heiwa era. That was the era in which I moved to Japan. And then Emperor Akihito retired, and a new era was started, and that's called the Reiwa era, and that's the one that we are in right now. So if you are like looking at Japanese antiques, things like old swords and stuff like that, which have the date inscribed on them, it can be very difficult to understand. It'll say a name of the particular era, and then a number, and then the kanji for year. Usually not a specific date because things like that take a long time. They're built over a period of time, but it takes a little research sometimes to find out when a particular thing was made. We're going kind of like on the opposite side of the tracks where we went last time. And going straight, we'll eventually run into Ueno Station. This building on the corner is a real estate development business, and they build mostly small condominiums known as mansions here in Japan. And very big business in building these. They're going up everywhere around Tokyo and the suburbs. The ones in Tokyo are stupidly expensive. The ones in the suburbs are actually quite reasonable. And the highway above me, if you are coming from Narita Airport to Tokyo, your bus will come down this highway. It goes over what is called Tokyo City Air Terminal. Over to the right side after it turns. Crossing Edo Dori. You'll probably get a good look at the sky tree a little further in the ride. And we'll be coming up to Akihabara shortly. Alright, and here the tunnels end and people have to use the surface street. If I'm going out riding along the river, Arakawa River, I often take this route. I don't like it so much because I don't like riding next to this big highway bridge thing. It's kind of louder under here, and no sun. In the winter it's nice to ride in the sun. But it's the fastest way, the most direct way. Asakusabashi would be to the right. It's a semi-notorious place, Asakusabashi. Location of one of the old Eitamura. You can spot these old neighborhoods by the fact that they have lots of shops which sell leather, which is kind of a traditional craft profession of that class of people. Over left here, there's a place called Cafe Cha-Cha. I wonder if it's still there. Ah, there it is, the Cha-Cha Cafe. It's been there forever. Cha-Cha the dog. A friend of mine has a poodle named Cha-Cha. It's a very popular name for pets here, especially dogs. And it's sometimes a name for girls as well. So if they call their dog Cha-Cha, it's going to be a female dog. Yeah, on this street here, when I was riding up last time, there was a fatal accident right here. I was quite surprised. Fatal accidents are rather rare in Tokyo. You don't often see them, but apparently someone crossing the street here was run over by a car. And they had the street blocked off, and it was blocked, and traffic was backed up all the way to Ochanomizu. Uber Eats is popular here. Okay. Nishin camera is still here. Today, crossing the Kanda River. This used to be the outer moat on this side of the city. It goes all the way out in circles toward Shinjuku. And now we would be in Akihabara. And the train line over there at the top, that would be, I think this Sotobu train. Sotobu. What? Sprint. Coast. Bicycle shop on the left. Looks like they're not there anymore. It's a shame. That place had really good deals on bicycle parts. When I was putting together my folding bicycle, I bought a lot of my components at that bike shop on sale. They were quite expensive, new, and quite cheap used. Go back out in the street. It's a quasi-legal way to get through a traffic light if you're on a bicycle without actually running it. Yeah, I'm putting in the base miles now, trying to get an early start here in the spring. So far, so good. I plan to do some good rides around Japan later in the year. The farthest of which I would start up in the northern part of Aomori and ride back here to Tokyo. It's a ride which would take maybe 7 or 8 days. Fairly mountainous in some places, and a lot of options for scenery. Mountains, coastline. Japanese are fairly careful drivers, but that doesn't mean they're good drivers. They go slow when they should go fast. They seldom go fast when they should go slow, though. Tour bus. It's a popular area with tourists, being near Ueno and Asakusa. There's a lot of commuting to some of the bigger American cities. This is pretty tame compared to some of them. Cool truck, Yakuza truck. Kasukabe Iminowa, that's the way we want to go. Which means we got to go through kind of a complicated route here behind Ueno Station. Docomo, looks like that guy's shopping for a new phone. If I were to turn left here, it would take me to Ueno and to Tokyo Dome City. If I turned right, it would take me toward Asakusa. And I'm kind of going in between those two places. And Ueno Station is one of the more famous stations in Japan. Ueno is home to the Ueno Zoo and the Museum of Western Art and the Tokyo National Museum. And the big pond, I forget the name of the pond. Pond which has snapping turtles in it, what they call in Japan alligator turtles. I didn't believe this. I remember going with my wife. We weren't married yet. We were walking through the park and they had these signs saying keep your pets away from the water because of the alligator turtles, and they showed a picture of one. Because I'd lived in Florida, I knew what a snapping turtle was, and I was quite surprised to see them here. And apparently someone when they were in an especially bad mood decided to turn these things loose in Ueno Pond. And 3 years ago I visited the park with a friend who was coming to Japan for the first time. And I was telling him about these turtles which were supposedly in the pond. And we looked down and I saw the biggest snapping turtle I've ever seen. It was amazing. I was completely surprised to see it. And yeah, that was probably more than 10 years after I first heard of them being in the park. Okay, police here are busy. If you get stopped by the police on your bicycle here for running a red light or something like that, put your hands together in front of your face and say, "Hontou ni gomen nasai." It means, "I'm really sorry." And the odds are very good that they'll probably let you go without a ticket. If you're driving a car, you're doomed. They absolutely never ever give anyone any kind of warning. If the police stop you in the car for something you've done wrong, you're going to get a ticket every time. I've been stopped by the police 3 times on my bicycle. The first time they stopped me for just being not Japanese, which is a common issue for people who aren't Japanese, and checking out my bike to make sure it was stolen. And that was a long time ago. Then they stopped me another time because I was riding at night without a light. And I put the light on the charger and forgot to put it back on the bike, and they let me go that time. And then once I went across the pedestrian crossing while the light was red, and luckily they let me go without any drama. But I did get a ticket in my car years ago for turning left in the wrong lane. And that's been my biggest brush with Japanese law enforcement. That's not a bad record for a non-Japanese. Just 1 ticket in 16 years. Especially for if you drive in Tokyo on a regular basis. The less expensive places to stay in Tokyo are going to be in this area. And this is we're kind of west of Asakusa here, and this street, especially on the right side, is like the motorcycle central. There are lots and lots of motorcycle shops. They sell motorcycles and scooters and and anything which has two wheels and an engine. And if you're the kind of person who likes motorcycles, especially vintage or collectible kinds of things, they have lots and lots of cool stuff. For myself, I don't have a motorcycle license here in Japan. My wife probably wouldn't let me get one. I did a lot of motorcycle riding over the years. My last bike before I got out of it was a Yamaha R1. And I was a member of a motorcycling club in South Florida. We would ride like maniacs everywhere. And I honestly say I'm lucky to be alive. I've done some incredibly stupid things on a motorcycle and managed to get away without a scratch. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case for a lot of other people. And I figured after a really long run of good luck that maybe my luck might be running out, and it would be wiser to quit while I was ahead. America is a great place to ride a motorcycle for the scenery and all that, but it's not a good place because drivers there tend to be blind to motorcycles. Here it's safer. People don't drive as fast here and they're more careful. The common rule in Japan, if you're in a collision, is that the larger vehicle assumes the fault or the larger burden of responsibility. If a motorcycle hits a bicycle, the motorcycle is technically at fault. If a car hits a motorcycle, the car is technically at fault. If a truck hits a car, the truck is technically at fault. And anyone who hits a pedestrian is at fault, regardless of what the pedestrian was doing. Okay. All right, this guy, is he gonna go through? Nope. Okay. And I think not to the right here. Maybe the next slide up. I'm just kind of going on an overland, not particularly planned route. I just know the general direction of where I'm going. But it's a nice day here. It's supposed to be really windy, but luckily it's not. And before it was really windy, it was supposed to be rainy. Obviously, the weather report wasn't accurate. Okay. That's the way we'll go, toward the sky tree. And there's the tallest structure in Japan. I watched that being built. It took forever. Okay. All right, so where I want to go is somewhere up ahead and to the left. More or less. Showadori, when it gets out into this area, becomes full of truck traffic, and I don't like truck traffic very much. No one who rides a bicycle likes trucks. When I used to do those long rides across the Everglades in Florida, I didn't mind the trucks so much because the shoulder was wide, and when the truck would go by, it would create a vacuum which would pull me along for a little while. Give me a slight break, make the pedaling a little bit less difficult. Nakairia. But here, in most other places, I don't like trucks. The trucks sometimes can't help coming a little close to you because the lanes here aren't very wide and the shoulders aren't very wide either. Often they'll just wait or go slowly. Now, truck drivers don't want to go to jail for hurting someone in an accident. All right, elementary school. Okay. All right. Every year they have something which is called a traffic safety month, where they focus on traffic safety. I think I'm going to turn left here. Once the light turns green. And they set up these checkpoints at all the various intersections around the city, and they hand out flyers and write people tickets. These guys with oh, it's interesting, the police over there wrote the taxi driver a ticket, and he takes his ticket and he bows to the policeman, and then both the policemen bow to him. In America, this might being pulled over by the police. Why did you pull me over? I didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, Japan is not America. I might have mentioned it before, but don't mess with the Japanese police, because you will always come out with the short end of the stick, or the long end applied somewhere to your body. Externally, of course, on your head or back or whatever. And they can keep you hidden until the bruises heal. And this is the famous Low City, all this area around here, and also the site of the huge firestorms which used to blow through the city and completely vaporize huge swaths. You know, someone would drop a candle or a cooking fire would get out of control, one building would go up, then two, and then an entire block, and then an entire district with a mushroom cloud up over the top, and hurricane force winds blowing it all around. That was one of the ways that Tokyo progressed over the years, is constantly having to be rebuilt. They became very good at rebuilding things here. Okay. So go up ahead and veer to the left a little bit more, I guess. Ah, and that takes me right where I want to go. How convenient is that? And old days, this is where the working class lived, at least in the early 20th century. Kind of a quiet area here with the different shopping districts. Sanwa Dori, that's the name of that street. And there's still a few of the old houses and small apartments around here. Most of them have been replaced over the years. The ones which, like in 1945, there was nothing here. It was just flat ground. It was just completely destroyed, nothing but rubble. So everything that you see here was built after 1945. And there was a huge building boom here in Tokyo during those years. People came from all over the country to work here. And this is the area where most of the workers lived, the ones who were building the city, and the train lines and the highways and everything else. And during the 1960s and 70s, this area, the area around it was known as Japan's largest skid row due to the large number of homeless people who lived here. There are fewer now. They've generally died off of old age. But when I first visited here, first time I came through here was about 15 years ago, and there were still a fair amount of them around. And then this used to be the area where many immigrants lived, mostly from Asia, generally from Korea, some from China, some from other places. I think this is the old shopping district here. Let me see. Let me get my bearings here. See where I'm at. Okay. All right. So let's go down this canal just a little bit to this park. This used to be the canal, which ran from the river to the Yoshiwara. And this goes all the way to the river. It's kind of this like park thing here where people are walking their dogs. Okay, I can squeeze all the way across here. And I think this is a good place to change the battery in my camera because it's getting a little bit low. So I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, battery's changed. Looks like it's going to be a long video since I'm on my second battery here. So along the right was the canal, and up ahead to the left was where the Yoshiwara was, and there was kind of a moat around the front part of it. and only one way in and one way out. And there was a bridge which crossed the moat, and that was the entrance, and you couldn't simply just walk in. So what you had to do is you had to stop at the entrance, the tea house, one of the tea houses. They were on either side of the street. And this curved street where I'm going right now, this is where the bridge used to be located. And right here is where the canal would have been. So it would have been an old wooden bridge at that time, crossing the canal with the tea shops on either side. And then here we would enter the Yoshiwara. And this is what it looks like today. In those days, it was streets of brothels with display windows with bars in front of them, where you could go and see the prostitutes. And you might not know what to look at it right now, but these are still brothels. This is probably the seediest and nastiest part of Tokyo, and no one really knows about it. It's not something that they talk about, but the place on the left, the places on the right, the places going up the street, the companion club, Kospara, the puzzle. This would be the main street. Body clinic, live chat, Cupid, Daikuroya, pawn shop, Kokuroya, Senzoku 4. So this was an incredibly wild place, and it's kind of interesting that still here. This isn't a place anyone really wants to actually live or go to school. They've changed the name here, but the Japanese people have long memories, and they don't forget about places with a history like this one. If you come here later in the day, here's another one, you'll see maybe there's one up here. Usually touts. They wear black suits and white dress shirts and short hair, and what they do is they try to scout people to come into their brothel. They're all Yakuza. And when tourists go by, like myself, they tend to, they don't bother tourists. They don't say anything to them. Some of them kind of turn and look away like they don't want their pictures taken. This is definitely one of the insane districts in the city. But it was famous for annual festival when the leading courtesan, the highest ranked one, who was usually the highest ranked one in Japan, would come out with her kimono and hair ornaments and makeup and everything else, and have a procession through the Yoshiwara here and to a nearby temple. Maybe there's some guys up to the left here. Another place here, the Picasso Club. And the price is 3,000,000 yen for a good time. For 3,000,000 yen, you get everything. 3,000,000 yen is about $200 now. The collection. This car here is a Yakuza car. The car in front of me is another Yakuza car. Interesting. See, and they're bringing customers to work. Or customers to a place of business, I guess is the better way to say it. And Chinese tourists. We'll go ahead and leave the Oshiwara now. I think I don't want to attract any more attention to myself. And we'll head out toward Minami Senju in our next stop. Of course, you can eat here. There's a nice ramen udon restaurant here. Leaving, crossing what used to be the old bridge and moat. Here's an old patoka from Kotoku. Patoka is the Japanese word for patrol car. These are usually retired people who have nothing better to do, so they volunteer to drive these little cars around to patrol the streets and something to do to relieve their boredom. They don't actually have any work they have to do. They don't have to arrest anyone. They can't write tickets. If something does happen and they call the police to help, the police will probably take an hour to show up. Their shift will be over by then. And these neighborhoods on this part of Tokyo are really wonderful for strolling around in. There are lots of small places to eat and drink, lots of small shops and stores. They aren't crowded with tourists like some of the other places tend to be. And you get a much different experience in this part of the city than you would in the more touristy parts. Now, right up ahead is, we're looking at right now is Sanya. And I mentioned earlier the biggest skid row in Japan. That's it right there. There used to be a covered shopping plaza. One of these things that you find all over Japan where they kind of cover it up to make it weatherproof and kind of draw people in to attract business for the shops and stores. And we'll go ahead and ride through it. And that didn't work. This area has such a nasty reputation. Well, there's still a few semi-homeless people here, but yeah, no one wanted to come here. And pretty much they still don't. You see, it's not the most beautiful place in Tokyo. In fact, there aren't many worse places than this. This is about as bad as it gets if you're going to, if you want a really cheap place which is somewhat close to the middle part of Tokyo. You can't go wrong here. This is also the place where there were labor riots and things like that in the past. I like the tumultuous days of the 60s. Okay. And we're passing here the shrine where the remains of prostitutes were buried. The more reputable shrines would not accept the remains of prostitutes because they were considered, I guess, unclean. But this particular shrine did. and unfortunately they were quite busy. Suicide rate and such among the unwilling ladies of the night was pretty high. There was rarely any violence or murder in these places. Just occasionally. But suicide was always a big problem. It's still kind of a problem today. Though it's not as bad as it's been. Suicide rate in Japan is now less than that in Scandinavia. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but it's what they say. But I think since the pandemic and kind of the change of the way people think about work and stuff here, that's made things better. Unagi. Unagi restaurant. Unagi is eel. Okay. Not sure if I can get to where I'm going straight ahead, but we'll give it a try. It's roughly where I want to go. Unagi is a very popular summer dish here, which Japanese people claim will make you feel cooler in the hot summer weather. And this tradition goes back to the days before air conditioning was a thing. And so Japanese had numerous tricks to trick the heat and fool you into thinking that you weren't as hot as you might otherwise feel. So unagi was one of the things. You eat unagi and it makes your body cooler. And also wind chimes. Now, these are popular souvenirs, and people will see these for sale when they come here to Japan in the summer. And basically they are a glass or metal bell with a wire hanging down and a paper charm of some kind. And when the wind blows it, it makes a nice tinkling sound. And the tinkling sound is supposed to make your body feel cool on hot days. And so you'll see them everywhere in the summer. Okay, I don't want to cross the river. I want to go to the left. This is Meiji Dori. Nice little park there. Now, the area where I'm going to is like the most haunted area in Tokyo, and one of the most haunted in Japan. And it was a place that people really, really avoided living in for a long time. They call it the Kotsukapara execution grounds. And I've mentioned, that law and order is pretty toughly enforced in modern Japan. It was much more harshly enforced in old Japan. A lot of the area here where the actual grounds existed are covered with industrial or train lines, because no one, even today, would actually dare live there. I can get over the bridge and probably find my way back the other way. Looks like bicycles are okay. So on the right, there's the riverbank to the Sumida River, most famous river in Tokyo. It's the site of the big Hanabi or fireworks festival in Asakusa every year. There are actually 2 fireworks events put on by different promoters, and there's kind of a contest to see which one put on the best show. And it's an hours long thing with thousands and thousands of fireworks exploding. Everyone comes out and sits on the streets. The traffic is blocked off, so people put blankets and mats in the streets and sit on the street and watch. And there are people who walk around with beer kegs on their back and sell beer. And they sell the usual festival snacks, things like yakisoba, fried soba noodles, okonomiyaki, which is like the Kansai style pancakes, and takoyaki. Taco is octopus, and yaki means broiled or fried or whatever, so cooked over fire or heat. Like yakitori is like cooked over charcoal. Takoyaki is not, but uses the same word to describe it. As part of the wonderful new development in this area, that developers kind of took advantage of the lower real estate costs and finally developed this place. It's nice to ride over here. It's like so quiet. It's hard to imagine you are I mean, you can see the buildings and all the concrete and everything, and you know you're in Tokyo, but on the other hand, around here it's not so busy. Okay, and that is the train yard. Obviously it's a train yard. No entrance. I don't plan to go in. These new mansion towers here. These actually have wonderful views of the city. The river goes in a loop around the right side here. And so you have a great view of the river. You can see the fireworks in Asakusa. You can see the Tokyo Sky Tree if you're on a high floor and your unit faces the right direction. On clear days, you can see Mount Fuji from here. I may go to the McDonald's and have lunch in this neighborhood. I don't know yet. Oh, there's a bike path here. And this should take me by the train station, where there's a big railroad yard. There's likely to be a train station. This really reminds me of a area around the American village in Naha in Okinawa. How wide the streets are and the arrangements of everything. The Royaru Home Center, the Royal Home Center, owned by the Daiwa House Group. Actually, it's a nice little shopping area here. I've never been here. I didn't know this was here. Lala Terrace. This is a nice bicycle shop there. I may have to go and check that out later. QB House. That's a place where you can get your hair cut for 1,200 yen, or about $8 at the current exchange rate. All right, and this is the station plaza coming up ahead. Okay. Up there is the Hibiya subway train. So you can get directly here on the Hibiya subway line. People love to walk in the bicycle lane here. Since they want to walk in the bicycle lane, I'll get on the street. Oh, good sushi restaurant. Okay. I need to get to the other side of the station and cross underneath. We are kind of on the wrong side here. The Hibiya subway line is one of the most convenient. It goes all the way out to Meguro and comes to here. I guess I can get under here. It says to walk your bicycle. I'll try that. They have a nice walkway for bicycles. Okay. And what goes down must come up. You're allowed to take your bicycle on the elevator here if you don't feel like pushing it up the ramp. It's a poodle there. I wonder if his name is Cha-Cha. Oh, the McDonald's, the place where I was thinking of having lunch. As I said, drivers here are careful, but they're not very good. He's very careful in his bad driving. Tomare, that means stop. I'll stop and then I'll go. I'll turn, that's what I'll do. Okay. That building right straight ahead there with that big gold emblem. That gold emblem is the standard or eskuchan or whatever you want to call it of the Tokugawa family, the shoguns who ruled Japan for centuries. And though the shoguns don't exist anymore, they still have some influence. And this shrine is famous, or temple, because it overlooks the actual execution site. And it houses the sword which was used by the chief executioner. And it's obviously not a tourist-oriented place where they would have a more attractive building. It kind of just looks like a typical modern, semi-modern kind of building. We'll go over here and cross Bone Street, and I'll tell you why it was called that shortly. Okay, let's cross. We'll get up on the sidewalk. Saint, Buddhist saint. We're going to enter a small cemetery up here. I'm not going to go in because I think that's kind of disrespectful, so I'll just kind of record from the outside. Alright, I'll push around a little bit. Okay, so entering the cemetery here. I guess I have to come in. Okay. And this is the Kubukiri Jizu, or the head cutting saint. And right here on this spot, as many as 200,000 people were beheaded over the course of 2 centuries. And despite all the buildings and train lines and all that, this spot here used to be surrounded by empty rice fields and a few trees. There are old paintings of this place and drawings. And it's a very interesting place. Not the kind of place most people would want to visit for official business. But they have offerings up there in front of the saint. I'm going to go ahead and leave now before I wear out my welcome. The Jizo, it looks like a Buddha, but it's actually a Buddhist saint. In Jizo is the saint which is the guardian of the underworld, and the spirits of people who are born come from the underworld, and the spirits of people who die go back to the underworld. And so, besides being a saint of death, it's also a saint of life, and it's one which is prayed to by pregnant women for good luck and, I guess, a happy life for their children. Now, this street I'm going up now is called Kotsudori, which means Bone Street. And it looks a lot like some of the other streets we were on, but this street used to be empty land, and this was where they buried up to 200,000 people who were beheaded in front of the Jizo. And they weren't buried very deeply. And to this day, gardeners and landscapers and construction workers find bones of these people. Going to turn around and go back the other way and go through the tunnel and start heading back. I don't think bicycles are allowed in the tunnel, but I'm going to probably sneak through anyway because it's not very far. But the tunnel up here, when this tunnel was excavated, they found a huge number of human bones, and they had a pile of bones some 2 meters high of the victims whom they'd recovered. The tunnel right there. So this is actually the most busy part. I'm not going to go through the tunnel because I just saw the police go by and I don't want to tempt fate. So maybe I'll go up and ride along the river for a while. Yeah, there they go. I think I mentioned in another video that the police are the only people here who wear bicycle helmets. I wasn't exaggerating. Burger King and Denny's. Back under Minami Shinju Station. Yeah, that's kind of a darker side of Tokyo that people don't know about. But the place we visited, execution grounds, that's actually one of 3 that were here in Tokyo. And the other 2 were not less busy. A lot of Japanese people have a very cultural sense about law and order, and that's because the consequences of breaking the law have always been severe. And in those days when the government wasn't rich and couldn't afford to build prisons and feed prisoners, the easiest way to deal with them was just to get rid of them altogether. And that's what they did. Bicycle parking here. Unfortunately, it's not free. And some very famous and infamous people were met their end in this place. And all the people who are walking around me are quite aware of this. They know the history of this area. Oh, beautiful cherry blossoms. Supposed to be blooming any time now. Saizeria, that's the #1 place for students to eat. Very reasonable, very tasty. Karaoke. Uniqlo, Nishimatsuya, Daiso. Nishimatsuya is a baby or young children's store. Everyone knows Uniqlo. Oh, Mr. Donuts. It's like where I live, they don't have shops like this. These are nice, inexpensive shops which sell ordinary things. Where I live, all we have are luxury shops and overpriced things. There's no Mr. Donuts in Roppongi. I can't have a 100 yen donut. I have to eat a 500 yen donut. 100 yen versus 500 yen. No, they used to have a Saizeria. They demolished the building and something new is going up there. Lala Terrace. So Lala is kind of a name of shopping malls or centers. They've got Lala Port, which are these big shopping centers located around Tokyo Bay. And we have this small place which is called Lala Terrace. And these are owned by the Mitsui Group, of course, who own most of the shopping around Tokyo. On the positive side, the prices aren't bad and pretty convenient, and they offer free parking if you have a member card and spend at least 5,000 yen during your shopping day. Since I usually go with my wife, there's no issue spending at least 5,000 yen. Alrighty. And we've left the dark and nasty area of Bone Street and Kozukapara behind. Now we're in sunnier and more friendly places. Sumidagawa Station and north. The kanji says Sumidagawa Eki Kita. And all the kids out today since there's no school holiday. My daughter is loving it, though she's really bored. Shogako elementary school over on the right side. Nice new school. I want to see if I can get through here to the riverside and ride along the river. I hope so. If not here, maybe a little further up. I'll go this way a little bit. Up ahead there's the Tokyo Sky Tree again. Shiori Seragi Hiroba, whatever that means. Hiroba means place. Some kind of place. And kids going to baseball practice. Want to be one of the baseball gods of Japan. Baseball is the big sport in Japan. Soccer coming in a distant second. Being a good baseball player, it's really good on your college application. Looks like there may be a bicycle path. Oh, mimosas. Smells so good. Okay, we have a wonderful view up here. Tokyo Sky Tree and all of its glory. The famous Sumida River. And the Minami Shinju National Natural Gas Plant. $1 million view, which costs a lot less than $1 million in this neighborhood. This further off to my left, maybe another 1.5 kilometers would be the Arakawa River, where I hope to ride next weekend. Do a longer ride. It's a nice place. They built these large embankments on the sides of the river because flooding used to be a really big problem here in the rainy season every June. And people here in the low part of the city often had their homes and businesses flooded. But they kind of solved this problem in the early 20th century with these big works here. All right, Shiba Inu, 12 o'clock. No, it's not. Oh, it is. Mini one. Got a buzz cut for the summer. Shrine over on the right side is busy. I don't see anyone here for Shichigo-san yet. I don't think I want to go to the east side of the river. I've only covered 12 miles so far. But I'm going to go ahead and cut off the video now. I think I've got enough footage here. Hopefully you found it interesting. If anyone has any requests, as I said in my last video, of any place you want to see in Tokyo, let me know. And I should have another video ready by next week. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you tune in again soon.